My wife kicked me out when her best friend blamed me for hitting on her. 5 months later, that friend admitted she was jealous. I handed over divorce papers and she fell apart then crying. My wife kicked me out because of her best friend's lie. 5 months later, that lie finally shattered, but by then, I was already holding the divorce papers, and it was too late to go back. It was 2 a.m., and I was sprawled on my brother Daniel's couch in San Antonio, the silence of his apartment amplifying every racing thought. My life had just imploded, and I couldn't understand how it happened so fast. I'm 34, work in cybersecurity, and honestly, until yesterday, I thought my marriage was rock solid. My wife, Amelia, she's 32, a physical therapist. We'd been together 9 years, married for 6, and no kids yet. We were actually planning to start trying once her student loans were more manageable. Her best friend, Scarlett, had been around since day one. They were high school friends from Illinois, stayed tight through college, and when Scarlett moved to San Antonio 5 years ago, she practically became part of our furniture. I mean, multiple dinners a week, every Friday night was girls' night, constant texting. At first, I didn't really mind. Scarlett had just gotten divorced, her ex cheated, and it totally destroyed her. So, I figured Amelia being there for her was the right thing to do. I even helped Scarlett move apartments last year. Looking back now, the signs were definitely there. Scarlett would get this look sometimes when Amelia kissed me goodbye. It's hard to describe, but it was never a happy for us look. And there were little comments, like, must be nice having someone who actually shows up, or, you're so lucky, Amelia. Some of us aren't that fortunate. I always chalked it up to bitterness from her divorce. About 6 months ago, we all went to dinner. Amelia went to the bathroom, and Scarlett just suddenly asked if I ever got tired of playing the perfect husband. I laughed it off, trying to be polite. But she stared at me a bit too long, then said, Amelia talks about me constantly, and it's honestly exhausting. Again, I just thought, single and bitter. Then yesterday, everything just exploded. It was a normal Tuesday. I got home around 6 p.m., and Amelia was already there, making dinner. She seemed off, but I figured she just had a long day at work. We ate in this really weird silence. Then, while I was loading the dishwasher, she dropped it. Scarlett told me what you did. I had no idea what she was even talking about. She gave me a look I'd never seen before, pure, unadulterated disgust. She said Scarlett had come to her office that afternoon, crying. According to Scarlett, I'd made a move on her 2 weeks ago when Amelia worked late. Scarlett claimed I texted her, asking if she wanted to come over and watch a movie because I was bored. She said she came over thinking we were just friends hanging out. Then, halfway through the movie, I supposedly put my hand on her leg and told her I'd always found her attractive. Scarlett said she froze, pushed my hand away, and left immediately. She didn't want to say anything because she didn't want to ruin our marriage, but then I'd apparently texted her again yesterday, asking to talk about what happened, and she just couldn't keep quiet anymore. My stomach dropped. None of that happened. I told Amelia that Scarlett was lying, that I never texted her, never invited her over, nothing. I pulled out my phone to show her my message history. It was basically empty, a few group texts, maybe 3 individual messages over the past year, all boring stuff like telling Amelia I was running late. But Amelia wouldn't even look at my phone. She said Scarlett showed her screenshots of texts I supposedly sent from a different number. I asked to see them. Amelia said Scarlett was too upset to send them, but she'd seen them herself. I pointed out that made 0 sense. Why would I even have a different number? But Amelia just snapped that I work in cybersecurity, so I could easily fake a number or use some app. I tried everything. I told her I was home that night playing games online with my buddy Ryan. I could prove it through Discord logs and game history. She said I could have done it after gaming. I said, fine, check the Ring doorbell. It'll show nobody came over. She said I probably deleted the footage. Every explanation I gave, she had a counter ready. It felt like she'd already decided I was guilty, and nothing was going to change her mind. I asked why Scarlett would lie about something like this. Amelia just screamed that Scarlett was her best friend and had nothing to gain from lying. Then she started crying, saying she'd defended me at first, but Scarlett had shown her the texts. She called Scarlett right there, on speaker. Scarlett was sobbing, saying she was so sorry. She never wanted this to happen. She just couldn't live with the guilt. I tried to speak, and Scarlett said something like, "Please just admit what you did. Don't make this harder on Amelia." I told her she was lying, and she started crying even harder, saying she knew I'd deny it and try to make her look crazy. Amelia hung up and told me to pack a bag and leave. I said, "No, this is my house, too. I'm not leaving over lies." She said if I didn't go, she'd call the cops and say I was making her feel unsafe. That threat, it just broke something inside me. I grabbed some clothes, my laptop, my toothbrush, and left. I sat in my car for maybe 20 minutes, just staring at nothing, then drove to my brother Daniel's apartment. Daniel opened the door, saw my face, and pulled me inside without asking a single question. I told him everything. He was absolutely pissed. He'd met Scarlett at holidays and family stuff, and he never liked her. Always said she gave him weird vibes, that she was too attached to Amelia. I thought he was being paranoid, but maybe he saw something I missed. Daniel said I needed to get a lawyer. Immediately, that false accusations like this could destroy my life. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept replaying every single interaction with Scarlett, trying to figure out if I'd done anything that could possibly be twisted. I came up with nothing. The next morning, I called Amelia, straight to voicemail. Texted her, nothing. I sent a long email explaining everything, begging her to look at the evidence. Silence. I even called her mom, thinking maybe she could talk some sense into Amelia, but her mom was ice cold. She said Amelia told her what happened, and she was disappointed in me. I tried to explain, and she cut me off, saying Amelia wouldn't lie and Scarlett had no reason to make things up. Everyone had already decided I was guilty. That night at Daniel's place, I made a decision. If Amelia wasn't going to believe me, if she was going to take Scarlett's word without even considering the possibility of lies, then maybe this marriage wasn't what I thought it was. The first week was rough. Daniel had to work during the day, so I'd just sit on his couch, scrolling through my phone, looking at old photos of me and Amelia. I kept thinking she'd come to her senses, realize Scarlett's story had holes, call and apologize. My phone stayed silent. I texted her every day for the first 5 days. Simple stuff, asking if we could talk, saying I missed her. Every message was ignored. On day 6, I drove past our house and saw Scarlett's car in the driveway at 11 a.m. on a Thursday. She'd basically moved in. That's when I realized this wasn't blowing over. Scarlett was there every day, in my house, probably reinforcing her lies constantly. Amelia wasn't getting any space to think. Daniel sat me down on day 7 and said I needed to stop torturing myself. He told me I couldn't keep driving by the house. Couldn't keep texting into the void. I needed to protect myself. He gave me his friend's number, a divorce attorney. I stared at that contact for 2 hours before finally calling. The attorney's name was David. Maybe mid-50s. He'd handled hundreds of divorces. We met at his office the next morning. I showed him everything, the basically empty text history with Scarlett, my Discord gaming logs from that night she claimed I invited her over, my Ring doorbell account showing no activity. David listened, then he said something that really stuck with me. He said, even if we prove Scarlett lied, even if Amelia eventually realizes the truth, you need to ask yourself if you can ever trust your wife again after this. That hit hard because he was right. Amelia didn't just believe Scarlett, she refused to even consider my side, kicked me out, blocked me, and turned her family against me. David said we should file immediately. He explained that in our state, there's a mandatory 60-day waiting period after filing before anything can be finalized, longer if there are disputes over assets or if one party contests. He said we should get ahead of it, file the paperwork, and if by some miracle Amelia came around before it was done, we could dismiss the petition. But at least I'd be protected. I signed the initial paperwork that day. It felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life implode. David said Amelia would be served within a week. I left his office and just walked around downtown Dallas for hours. I ended up at this park by the Colorado River, where Amelia and I had our first date 9 years ago. We'd gotten ice cream and talked for 5 hours straight. I remember thinking that night that I'd probably marry her someday. Now here I was, signing divorce papers because she believed lies over me. I called my best friend Ryan that night. He's the one I was gaming with the night Scarlett claimed I made a move on her. I told him everything, and he was shocked. He offered to call Amelia and confirm I was online with him that whole evening. I said, don't bother. She wouldn't believe him either. Ryan mentioned that Scarlett always seemed off to him. He remembered this Christmas party 2 years ago when she got drunk and was weirdly touchy with Amelia all night. I remembered that, too. We'd all just laughed it off at the time. Week 2, I started functioning again. Couldn't stay at Daniel's forever, so I looked for apartments. Found a decent one-bedroom about 20 minutes from work. Signed a 6-month lease. Daniel helped me move my stuff in, which wasn't much since most of my things were still at the house. I bought cheap furniture, tried to make it feel like home. It didn't. The place felt empty and depressing. I threw myself into work. My boss noticed I was off, but didn't ask questions. I started staying late, taking on extra projects, anything to avoid going home to that empty apartment. I also started hitting the gym every morning before work. Daniel suggested it. Said it helped him through his breakup a few years back. I hadn't worked out regularly since college, but I needed somewhere to put all this anger. It actually helped. Something about lifting heavy weights makes everything else feel manageable for a bit. Week 3. Still no word from Amelia. The divorce papers had been served. David called, saying Amelia got them and apparently freaked out. Her mom called his office, screaming about how I was abandoning my wife when she needed me. How dare I file for divorce? David calmly explained that her daughter kicked me out over false accusations and refused all contact. Her mom hung up on him. Part of me hoped getting served would wake Amelia up, make her realize I was serious. Still nothing. Then something interesting happened. One of our mutual friends, a girl named Chloe who works with Amelia at the clinic, reached out to me on Instagram. She said she didn't know what happened, but she didn't believe I'd do what Scarlett was claiming. I asked why, and she said Scarlett had been acting really weird lately. Practically living at Amelia's place. Gets defensive when anyone asks about me. And honestly, parts of her story just didn't add up. Chloe said a few other people at the clinic were questioning Scarlett's version too, but nobody wanted to say anything to Amelia because she was so fragile. That conversation gave me a tiny bit of hope that maybe the truth would come out eventually. But it didn't change my situation. I was still alone in a depressing apartment. My wife still hated me. Scarlett was still playing the victim. Week 4, Daniel insisted I go on a date. He set me up with one of his girlfriend's friends, a girl named Lauren. She was nice, worked in marketing. We got drinks downtown. I tried to be present, but my heart just wasn't in it. Halfway through, she looked at me and said, "I'm not over my ex, am I?" I apologized. I told her I was going through a divorce and probably shouldn't be dating right now. She was cool about it, wished me luck. I went home feeling even more alone. By week 8, I was starting to accept this was my new reality. Amelia wasn't coming back. The divorce was moving forward. I started making plans for what my future might look like. Maybe move cities. Start fresh. Focus on my career, go for that senior position opening up. Travel. Something Amelia and I always talked about but never did. Then week 10 happened, and everything changed. Amelia's mom called me. Amelia's mom calling was the last thing I expected. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Her voice was shaking. She said she needed to tell me something and owed me an apology. Turns out, Scarlett got drunk at her house 3 days earlier. Amelia wasn't there, she was working a late shift. Scarlett started crying about how hard everything had been, how guilty she felt. Amelia's mom thought she meant guilty about coming forward with the accusation. Then Scarlett said something that made her pause. Something about how she just loved Amelia so much and couldn't watch me have her anymore. Amelia's mom asked what that meant, and Scarlett broke down completely. Confessed she'd made everything up. She said she'd been in love with Amelia since high school. Watching us be happy was torture. She thought if she could break us up, maybe Amelia would finally see her differently. Amelia's mom was horrified. She confronted her right there. And Scarlett admitted everything. The fake screenshots, the lies, all of it. She used some app to create fake text conversations that looked like they came from my number. Amelia's mom apologized over and over on that call. Said she should have trusted me, should have asked more questions. I thanked her for telling me, but honestly, I just felt numb. Yeah, I was vindicated, but the damage was done. I told her she needed to tell Amelia immediately. She said she'd been trying, but Amelia wouldn't listen. She thought her mom was just defending me out of guilt. I hung up and sat there staring at the wall. Part of me wanted to feel victorious, but mostly I just felt empty. 2 hours later, my phone started blowing up with texts from Amelia. Dozens of them. I didn't read them. Turned my phone off and went to bed. The next morning, I had 17 missed calls from Amelia and maybe 30 texts. I finally read them. All variations of begging me to call, saying she was sorry, we needed to talk. I didn't respond. David called that afternoon, saying Amelia's lawyer reached out, asking if I'd be willing to meet to discuss reconciliation. I told David to set up a meeting, but to make it clear it was only to finalize divorce details, nothing else. He said he'd handle it. The meeting was scheduled for Friday afternoon at our house. Amelia wanted to meet there, probably thought being home would make me emotional. I agreed, but said David was coming with me. Friday came, and I drove to the house for the first time in almost 3 months. Amelia's car was in the driveway. So was Scarlett's. My stomach dropped. I called David, told him Scarlett was there. He just said, "Wait, I'll handle it." We walked in together. Amelia was on the couch, crying. Scarlett was standing behind her with a hand on Amelia's shoulder. The audacity. David immediately said Scarlett needed to leave, or we were walking out. Amelia looked confused. She said Scarlett was there to apologize, too. I almost laughed. Scarlett started to say something, but David cut her off. He said her presence was inappropriate, and I had no interest in anything she had to say. Scarlett's face went red. She looked at Amelia, expecting backup, but Amelia just sat there. Scarlett grabbed her purse and headed for the door, but as she passed me, she muttered under her breath that I'd ruined everything. That's when I saw it click for Amelia. Her face went from confusion to shock to disgust in real time. She stood up and asked Scarlett what that meant. Scarlett froze, turned around, and you could see her trying to figure out how to backtrack. Too late. Amelia walked over and said her mom told her what Scarlett said about being in love with her, that she didn't want to believe it. But the way Scarlett just looked at me, it made it obvious. Scarlett started crying, tried to grab Amelia's hands, said she did this for them, that I was keeping Amelia from seeing what they could have together. Amelia stepped back like she'd been hit and told Scarlett to get out. Scarlett refused. She started rambling about how she'd loved Amelia since they were 16. Waited all this time. Destroyed her own marriage because she couldn't stop thinking about Amelia. Then Amelia married me, and she had to watch us together every single day. Amelia was shaking. She screamed at Scarlett to get out. Scarlett tried to hug her. Amelia shoved her away, and Scarlett stumbled backward into the coffee table. She got up, mascara everywhere, looked at both of us with pure hatred before finally leaving. The door slammed. The house went silent. Amelia collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. She looked at me and kept saying she was so sorry. I didn't move. I just stood there looking at this woman who was technically still my wife, but she felt like a complete stranger. David pulled the divorce papers from his briefcase and set them on the coffee table. Amelia saw them and started crying harder. She begged me not to do this, said we could fix it. She'd do anything. I finally spoke. I told her she threw me out of my own home. Believed someone else over me without real evidence. Turned her family against me. Wouldn't listen when I begged her to hear my side. She kept saying sorry, that she'd made a terrible mistake, that Scarlett manipulated her. I looked at David, and he nodded. I turned back to Amelia and said I hope she finds someone she'll actually trust because it wasn't me, and it never would be again. I signed the papers right there on our coffee table. Amelia was begging me to stop, saying we could go to therapy, she'd make it up to me. I stood up and walked toward the door. She grabbed my arm, and I gently pulled away. I said goodbye and left. I could hear her calling after me as I got in the car. David followed in his car. We drove to his office and finalized everything we could that day. That was 3 months ago. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks ago. I'm actually seeing Lauren now, the girl Daniel set me up with. We reconnected about a month ago, and things are good. She knows everything. Doesn't judge. I moved into a bigger place, got that promotion at work, started traveling. Something I've always wanted to do. Amelia tried contacting me a few more times, but I blocked her everywhere. Daniel mentioned she's in therapy now, trying to process everything. Scarlett apparently moved back to Illinois. I don't feel bad for either of them. I'm actually happy now. Happier than I was in that marriage, if I'm being honest. Sometimes the worst thing that happens turns out to be the best thing. This was mine. What do you think about this story?